My name is Leo, and I'm 17. For most kids, a week alone while your parents are on a cruise is a dream come true. For me, it was a necessity. I needed the silence, the space. I had college applications to finish. I had everything planned, a strict schedule, a fully stocked fridge, and a promise to my mom to keep the doors locked and the alarm on at all times. I kept the first two promises. The trouble started on the third night. I was in the kitchen, making a late-night sandwich, when the motion sensor light in the backyard flicked on. I glanced out the window. Nothing. Probably a raccoon. I went back to the mayonnaise. A minute later, the light turned off. Then, a second after that, it turned back on. This time, someone was standing under it. My heart jumped into my throat. It was a man. He was just standing there, perfectly still, facing the house. He was wearing a dark, hooded sweatshirt, even though it was a warm night, and his hands were shoved in his pockets. I couldn't see his face under the shadow of the hood. Fight or flight kicked in, and flight won. I dropped to the floor below the window line, my breath coming in short, sharp gasps. I army crawled to the back door and deadbolted, my hands shaking so badly I could barely turn the lock. I then scrambled to the alarm panel by the front door and punched in the code to arm the system. A reassuring green light glowed. System armed. I crawled to the living room window, carefully peering through a slit in the blinds. The backyard was empty. The light was off. He was gone. Maybe it was just a neighbor, I told myself. Maybe he was disoriented. The excuses sounded pathetic even to me. Why would a neighbor stand motionless in a stranger's yard at midnight? I decided to call the police. As I reached for my phone on the kitchen counter, a different sound froze me in place. It was a low, soft, rhythmic. It was coming from the front porch. I knew that sound. It was the old wooden porch swing my dad had been meaning to fix for years. Someone was sitting on it, gently swinging back and forth. The blood drained from my face. He wasn't gone. He just moved from the back to the front. He was on my porch. I didn't call the police. What would I say? There's a man on my swing? It sounded insane. Instead, I did nothing. I stood in the dark kitchen, listening to the steady, lazy creak of the swing. He was in no hurry. He was just waiting. After what felt like an eternity, the creaking stopped. I heard the soft thud of feet landing on the porch boards. Then silence. This was worse. Where was he? Was he leaving? Was he coming to the door? I stood there for 10 minutes, not moving, barely breathing, listening for any sound. Nothing. Finally, I had to know. I crept to the front door and looked through the peephole. The porch was empty. A wave of relief, so intense it made me dizzy, washed over me. He was gone. It was over. I turned away from the door, leaning against the wall to steady myself. That's when I saw it. On the small table in the hallway, right next to the door, was the alarm panel. The light that had been glowing green was now red. System disarmed. The code. He'd disarmed the system. But that was impossible. The code was my mom's birthday. How could he possibly know that? My eyes darted to the mail pile on the table. A birthday card from my mom, its envelope clearly showing the date. Left out in the open for anyone to see. The reality of the situation crashed down on me. This wasn't random. He'd been watching. He knew the code. He'd been on the porch not to wait, but to block the front door while he sent someone else in through the back. The man in the yard was a distraction. The creak of the porch swing hadn't been a threat. It had been a message. A way to say, I'm not here to break in. I'm already in. I'm not hiding in my bedroom closet. The door is locked, but I know that won't matter. I can hear them downstairs now. Not rushing. Not tearing the place apart. They're moving slowly, deliberately. I can hear the quiet opening of drawers in my dad's study. The soft footsteps on the stairs. They're not here to steal the TV. They're looking for something specific. And the worst part, the part that makes my blood run colder than any ghost story ever could, is that they're being so quiet. They're not worried about me hearing them. They already know exactly where I am. My name is Chloe, and I'm 29. I work from home as a freelance graphic designer, which means my world is often confined to these four walls. I love the solitude, the quiet hum of my computer, the comfort of my own space. At least I did. That was before the packages started arriving. It began subtly. A small, flat cardboard box was left at my doorstep. No return address, no postage, just my name and address printed in a clean, generic font. Inside was a single, vinyl record sleeve. The record itself was missing. It was for an album I'd never heard of by a band called The Silent Keys. The cover art was a distorted, black and white photograph of a hallway that looked unsettlingly like my own. I threw it away, chalking it up to a misdelivery or a weird marketing ploy. A week later, another package. This one was heavier. Inside, nestled in crumpled brown paper, was an old rotary dial telephone, its cord cut neatly about a foot from the base. It was the same avocado green as the phone my grandmother had in her kitchen when I was a child. A specific, forgotten shade. A cold knot tightened in my stomach. How could anyone know that? I started paying attention. My apartment building is old, with a main door that's often left unlocked by careless neighbors. I began to notice small things. The distinct smell of cigar smoke in the stairwell on Tuesday evenings, though no one on my floor smokes. The faint, greasy smudge of a fingerprint on my peephole, wiped away but always returning. The third package was different. It wasn't left at the door. I found it on my kitchen counter one afternoon. I'd only been in the shower for 20 minutes. The door was locked. The alarm wasn't triggered. It was a small, porcelain music box. When I lifted the lid, a tiny ballerina spun in jerky circles to a warped, tinkling melody I almost recognized. Taped to the inside of the lid was a small square of paper. On it, in that same clean print, was a message. I enjoy the quiet of your days. It matches the quiet of my own. We should listen to the quiet together. Panic, pure and electric, shot through me. He wasn't just leaving things at my door. He was inside. He had been inside. While I slept. While I showered. While I worked just feet away in my office nook, oblivious. I called the police. They swept the apartment. Nothing. No forced entry, no hidden cameras they could find. The officer suggested it might be a complex prank, that maybe I'd left the door unlocked. I knew I hadn't. The true horror didn't come with a break-in. It came with a revelation. After the police left, I sat on my couch, paralyzed by fear, staring at the music box on my coffee table. The melody it played, it was stuck in my head. It was so familiar. I hummed it, my voice shaky. And then it hit me. It was the theme song from a children's show I used to watch. A show so obscure I'd never met anyone else who remembered it. A show I'd only ever watched at my grandparents' house 30 years ago. This wasn't random. This wasn't a stalker who'd seen me at the grocery store. This was personal. Deeply, intimately personal. This was someone who knew me from a time in my life I could barely remember myself. The forgotten phone, the obscure melody, They were breadcrumbs from my own past. The final package arrived yesterday. It was slipped under my door while I was boiling water for tea. A single, unmarked CD. With trembling hands, I pushed it into my computer's drive. It contained one audio file. I clicked play. The sound was of my own apartment. The gentle hum of my refrigerator. The faint tick of the clock in the hallway. The sound of my own breathing, slow and steady, from last night as I slept. It was a perfect, high-fidelity recording of the silence he loved so much. And then, a whisper edited into the tape, so quiet I had to strain to hear it. A voice I didn't recognize, yet felt I'd known my whole life. "You're remembering, aren't you? I've always been here, listening to your quiet. Soon you'll listen to mine. I haven't slept. I sit here now, in the silence he loves so much, and I realize the horror isn't that a stranger has invaded my home. It's that a ghost from my own life has finally decided to make himself known. And he's not outside. He's in the memories I'd locked away, and he's patiently, quietly, waiting for me to let him back in."